The alarm bells rang through the ship at exactly 14:30 hours. Commander Jake Morrison looked up from his coffee and sighed. Another drill. He pressed the button on his desk and spoke into the microphone. All human crew, this is Commander Morrison. Monthly safety drill starting now. Please move to your stations. Jake stood up and walked toward the door. The drill was nothing special. Every month, all the crew members had to practice what to do if something bad happened to the ship. It was boring but necessary. Down the hall, Dr. Lisa Parker was looking at rock samples from the last planet they visited. When she heard the alarm, she put down her tools and started walking to the meeting point. She passed by her alien friend Dr. Kellanoff, who was a Zephyrian. Zephyrians looked like big insects with 4 arms and shiny green skin. Another drill, Lisa said to Kellanoff. See you at the meeting point, but Kellanoff did not answer. He was making strange clicking sounds and his skin was changing colors. Lisa had never seen him do that before. She stopped walking. Are you okay? She asked. Kellanoff looked at her with his big black eyes. The drill ... It has started, he said. His voice was shaking. Lisa did not understand why he seemed so scared. It was just a drill. She shrugged and kept walking. In the engine room, Pete Collins was fixing a broken part when the alarm rang. He wiped his hands on his clothes and started walking to his drill station. On the way, he saw some hydrants running down the hall. Hydrants were water creatures that looked like tall blue people with gills on their necks. The hydrants were breathing very fast. Their gills were opening and closing quickly. Pete thought they might be sick. Hey, you guys okay? Pete called out one of the hydrants. Turned around. It was Dr. Villana, who worked in the science lab. Her big blue eyes were wide with fear. The drill, she said. We must hurry, we must survive. Pete scratched his head. It's just a drill, Doc, nothing to worry about. Dr. Villana stared at him like he was crazy. Then she ran away, her gills still moving fast. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Kim was checking supplies when the alarm started. She locked her cabinet and walked toward the door. In the hallway, she saw something strange. All the alien crew members were acting weird. The Vortani, who were made of living crystal, were making high-pitched sounds. The sounds hurt Sarah's ears. She had never heard them make noise like that before. The Vortani usually moved slowly and quietly, but now they were rushing around like something was chasing them. Sarah saw Captain Nexville, the ship's leader, coming down the hall. He was a Zephyrian like Dr. Kellanoff, but older and bigger. His green skin was almost black with stress, and he was shaking. Captain, Sarah said, is everything all right? Captain Nexville looked at her. Dr. Kim, please move to your station. Quickly, the drill is very dangerous. Sarah was confused. Dangerous? It's just a practice drill. The captain's eyes went wide. Just a practice drill? He made more clicking sounds. How can you be so calm? Sarah did not know what to say. She had done hundreds of drills before. They were normal, easy. She walked to her station, thinking about the captain's strange behavior. At the main meeting point, all the crew members were gathering. The humans arrived first. Jake, Lisa, Sarah, Pete, and the other humans stood together, talking and laughing. Some of them were still eating lunch. I hope this doesn't take long, said Alex Turner, the ship's engineer. I was in the middle of a good book. At least it's not a real emergency, said Danny Walsh, the security chief. Remember that time on the Mars station when the oxygen system actually broke? The humans laughed and shared stories about real emergencies they had lived through. They seemed relaxed and happy, but the alien crew members were different. They came to the meeting point in groups, staying close to their own kind. The Zephyrians were clicking and changing colors. The Hydras were breathing fast and making worried sounds. The Vortani were still making those high-pitched noises. Dr. Kellanoff came up to Lisa. His skin was now dark purple, which Lisa had never seen before. Lisa, he said quietly, how are you not afraid? Afraid of what? Lisa asked. The drill. The emergency practice. We might not survive? Lisa looked at him like he was joking. Kellanoff, it's just pretend. Nobody gets hurt in a drill. Doctor, Kelenoth stared at her. Just pretend? But the stress? The fear. Many of my people have died from drill stress alone. Lisa's mouth fell open. She had no idea that drills could be so scary for aliens. The ship's computer voice came on. Emergency. Drill beginning. All crew members report to evacuation stations. This is a simulation of hull breach in Section 7. The humans nodded and started walking to their assigned places. They moved normally, like they were going to dinner, but the aliens reacted like the ship was really in danger. Some of them started crying. Others were shaking so hard they could barely walk. A few hydrants collapsed and had to be helped by their friends. Pete looked around at all the scared aliens. What's wrong with everyone? He asked Jake. Jake shook his head. I have no idea, it's just a drill. Dr. Sarah Kim was watching a group of Vortani who were huddled together, their crystal bodies glowing bright red with stress. She had studied alien biology, but she had never seen reactions like this. Commander Morrison, I think we need to talk about this after the drill. Jake nodded. Something was very wrong, but he did not know what. The drill continued for 30 minutes. The humans followed all the safety steps perfectly. They checked equipment, practiced evacuation routes, and tested communication systems. They did everything they were supposed to do, and they did it well, but the whole time, the aliens were struggling. Some of them were too scared to move. Others were making mistakes because they were shaking so much. A few had to be taken to the medical bay because the stress was making them sick. When the drill ended, the humans went back to their normal activities. But the aliens stayed in groups, comforting each other and talking in quiet voices about what had happened. Jake Morrison looked around the ship and realized something important. The monthly drill that humans thought was boring and easy was actually one of the most terrifying things that aliens had ever experienced. He had no idea why, but he was going to find out. The next morning, Jake Morrison woke up to find his door covered in flowers. Not regular flowers, but the crystal flowers that Vortani grew when they wanted to show respect. He opened his door and found more gifts in the hallway. There were small metal sculptures from the Zephyrians and water-carved stones from the Hydrons. Jake was confused. He had never gotten gifts like this before. He picked up one of the crystal flowers and looked at it closely. It was beautiful, but he had no idea why someone had given it to him. He walked to the dining hall for breakfast. Usually the aliens and humans sat together at the same tables. But today all the aliens were sitting together on one side of the room, staring at the humans who were eating on the other side. This is weird, said Pete Collins, sitting down next to Jake with his breakfast tray. Everyone's looking at us like we're famous or something. Lisa Parker joined them, carrying her own gifts. I found these outside my room, she said, showing them some small carved animals. I think they're from the Zephyrians, but I don't know what they mean. Dr. Sarah Kim came over with a worried look on her face. Commander, I need to talk to you. I spent all night in the medical bay. What happened? Jake asked. 12 aliens came in after the drill yesterday. They were having panic attacks, stress, sickness, and something the Vortani called crystal shock. I had to give them medicine to help them sleep. Jake put down his coffee. 12 from one drill? That's not all, Sarah continued. Dr. Villana told me that on her home planet, they only do emergency drills once a year, and they prepare for weeks before each one. They have special doctors and counselors standing by because so many people get sick from the stress. Pete stopped eating. Are you serious? It's just a drill. That's what I said, Sarah replied. But apparently that's not how other species see it. Before anyone could say more, Captain Nexville approached their table. His green skin was lighter than yesterday, but Jake could still see stress patterns on his face. Commander Morrison, the captain said in his formal voice. May I speak with you privately? Jake stood up. Of course, Captain. They walked to a quiet corner of the dining hall. Captain Nexville looked around to make sure no one was listening. Commander, I must ask you something important. Are all humans like you? What do you mean? Jake asked. Yesterday, during the drill, your people showed no fear, no stress, no panic. In my 40 years of space travel, I have never seen any species act like that during emergency training. Jake thought about this. Captain, for us, drills are just practice. We know they're not real, Captain Nextfall's eyes went wide. But the stress is real. The fear is real. Even knowing it is practice, our bodies and minds cannot tell the difference. The drill creates the same fear as a real emergency. But that's the point, Jake said. We practice so we won't be scared when something real happens. The captain made those clicking sounds again. You practice being in danger so you will not fear danger. Yes, Captain Nextfall sat down heavily in a chair. This is ... This is impossible. No species can do this. The stress alone should kill. You, Jake was starting to understand. Captain, how dangerous are drills for your people? Very dangerous. We lose crew members every year from drill stress. Heart failures, nervous breakdowns, crystal shatter in the Vortani. Most ships only do one drill per year, and we prepare for months. Jake felt his stomach drop. We do 12 drills per year. The captain's skin went completely pale. 12 per year? How many of your people survive? All of them. We've never lost anyone to drill stress. Captain Nextfall stood up quickly. I must report this to the Galactic Scientific Consortium immediately. This is ... This is unprecedented. That afternoon, Jake called a meeting with all the human crew members. He wanted to understand what made them different from the aliens. So, let me get this straight, said Alex Turner. The aliens think our monthly drills are like torture? Worse than torture, said Sarah. Dr. Kellanoff told me that torture is something that happens to you, but drills are something you do to yourself. He said it's like choosing to be afraid. Danny Walsh laughed. That's crazy. Drills are fun. They break up the boring routine. Fun? Said Lisa. Danny, the aliens heard you say that. Dr. Valana asked me if humans enjoy being terrified. I told her we don't get terrified by drills, Danny replied. We get excited. Sarah shook her head. That made it worse. She asked me if humans are addicted to fear. Jake was quiet for a moment. Maybe we are different. Think about it. On Earth, we have earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, volcanoes. We grew up with dangerous things happening all the time. That's true, said Pete. My dad always said that if you're not a little scared, you're not paying attention. But we don't let the fear stop us, added Alex. We just deal with it and keep going, Lisa nodded. I've been thinking about this. The aliens come from safer planets. Dr. Kellanoff told me that the most dangerous thing on his homeworld is getting caught in the rain. Rain? Said Danny. That's not dangerous. It is for them, Lisa replied. Their skin changes color when it gets wet, and it makes them easy targets for predators. Jake was beginning to see the bigger picture. So we're from a dangerous planet, and they're from safe planets. That's why we're different. Sarah pulled out her medical tablet. I've been looking at the biological data from yesterday's drill. The aliens showed stress levels that would require emergency medical care for humans. But our stress levels were actually lower than what we show when we're working hard. So drills make us calmer? Asked Pete. Not calmer, Sarah corrected. Focused. Our bodies and minds work better when we have a clear problem to solve. Just then, Dr. Kellanoff appeared at the door. His skin was a nervous yellow color. Excuse me, he said quietly. May I speak with you? Of course, said Jake. Come in. Dr. Kellanoff stepped into the room but stayed near the door. I have been asked by the other non-human crew members to make a request. What request? Jake asked. We would like to know if you would be willing to teach us how to not be afraid. The humans looked at each other. They had never thought about fear as something you could teach. I'm not sure we can teach that, Jake said. We're not trying. To be brave, we just don't see drills as dangerous. Dr. Kellanoff's skin changed to a hopeful green. But that is exactly what we want to learn. How do you look at danger and not see it as dangerous? Lisa stood up. Maybe we can try. But first, we need to understand why you're so afraid. Dr. Kellanoff thought for a moment. On my world, if you are separated from your hive, you die. The drill yesterday simulated being separated from the ship, which is like our hive. For us, it is like practicing death. But you know it's not real, said Danny. Our minds know it is not real, Dr. Kellenoth replied, but our bodies do not. The fear is automatic. Jake nodded slowly. So you can't turn off the fear response? No. Can you turn on yours? The humans thought about this. They realized that maybe they were the strange ones, not the aliens. I think we need to study this more, said Sarah. If we can figure out how human fear works, maybe we can help. Dr. Kellenoth's skin brightened. The captain has already requested a full scientific study. Researchers from the Galactic Consortium are coming to observe you. Jake felt a little nervous for the first time in days. Observe us doing what? More drills. Much more dangerous drills. They want to find your limit. The humans looked at each other and smiled. They had no idea that their most boring ship duty was about to make them the most interesting species in the galaxy. 3 days later, a special ship arrived. It was sleek and silver, with the symbols of the Galactic Scientific Consortium painted on its side. Jake Morrison watched from the observation deck as the research vessel docked with their ship. They came fast, said Lisa Parker, joining him at the window. Too fast, Jake replied. Makes me think this is a bigger deal than we thought. The researchers came aboard within an hour. There were 5 of them, all from different species that Jake had never seen before. The leader was Dr. Aventer of Vortani, whose crystal body glowed with calm blue light. She was taller than the other Vortani on the ship, and her voice sounded like wind chimes when she spoke. Commander Morrison, Dr. Aventer said. I am here to study your species' response to simulated danger. We have designed several tests that will help us understand your psychological capabilities. Jake felt a little uncomfortable. What kind of tests? Nothing that will harm you, Dr. Aventer assured him. We simply want to observe how humans react to situations that would be extremely stressful for other species. Dr. Sarah Kim stepped forward. As the medical officer, I need to know exactly what you're planning. Dr. Aventer's crystal body flickered. We will create realistic simulations of ship emergencies. Hull breaches, hostile contacts, medical crises. Situations that normally require extensive psychological preparation. That sounds like a normal Tuesday for us, said Pete Collins. Dr. Aventer's glow changed to a confused purple. You experience ship emergencies regularly? Not real ones, Pete explained. But we train for them all the time. That's just part of the job. One of the other researchers, a tall gray alien with 6 eyes, spoke up. This is Dr. Zenakara. I specialize in fear responses across different species. What you just described? Should be impossible. Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed as confused as he felt. What do you mean impossible? Dr. Zenakara pulled out a device that looked like a tablet. According to our research, repeated exposure to life-threatening scenarios, even simulated ones, causes permanent psychological damage in all known species. The stress accumulates over time and eventually results in complete mental breakdown. But we've been doing drills for years, said Alex Turner. Since we were kids, actually. Fire drills in school, earthquake drills, tornado drills. You train children to face disasters? Dr. Zenakara's 6 eyes all focused on Alex. How many survived to adulthood? All of them, Alex replied. Well, except for accidents and stuff, but drills don't hurt anyone. Dr. Zenakara made notes on his tablet. Remarkable. We must begin testing immediately. The first test started the next morning. Dr. Aventer had worked with the ship's computer to create a realistic hull breach scenario. The plan was simple. The humans would respond to a simulated emergency while the researchers observed and recorded their reactions. This will be more intense than your usual drills, Dr. Aventer warned. The ship's computer will create actual environmental effects. Temperature changes, air pressure drops, realistic damage to the ship's systems. Jake nodded. We understand. The alien crew members will be observing from a safe location, Dr. Aventer continued. They have requested to watch, but they cannot be exposed to the simulation itself. The simulation began at 10 o'clock hours. The ship's lights flickered and turned red. Alarms started blaring and the computer's voice announced, "Hull, breach in Section 4. All crew to emergency stations. This is not a drill." The humans immediately sprang into action. Jake coordinated the response while Sarah grabbed her medical kit. Pete and Alex headed toward the simulated breach location, and Danny secured the command center. What the humans didn't know was that the observation deck was packed with alien crew members, all watching in amazement. "Look at them," whispered Dr. Kalanoff to Captain Nexville. "Their stress indicators are actually decreasing." Captain Nexville checked his own readings. "And their performance is improving. How is this possible?" In the simulation, Pete was working to repair the hull breach. The computer had made it realistic. There was actual cold air rushing in, and the artificial gravity was fluctuating. But Pete was whistling while he worked. "Hey, Alex," Pete called out. "Hand me that plasma welder." Alex tossed him the tool. "This is actually pretty cool. Better than the boring drills we usually do." Sarah was treating a simulated injury on a holographic crew member. The patient was bleeding and unconscious, but Sarah worked with steady hands and a calm voice. "Patient is stable," she reported to Jake. "Pulse is strong, no sign of shock." Jake was coordinating everything from the command center. He was making decisions quickly, giving orders, and keeping track of multiple problems at once, but his voice was calm and confident. "Danny, how's our security situation?" Jake asked. "All clear, Commander." If this was real, we'd be in good shape. The simulation lasted for 2 hours. The humans handled every challenge the computer threw at them. When it was over, they were tired but satisfied. "Good work, everyone," Jake said. "That was a tough one." "Yeah, but we nailed it," said Pete, grinning. Meanwhile, in the observation deck, the alien researchers were frantically taking notes. "Impossible," Dr. Zinakara kept repeating. "This violates everything we know about stress psychology." Dr. Eventer was glowing bright white with excitement. "We need more tests, much more challenging tests." The second test came 2 days later. This time, it was a hostile alien contact scenario. The ship's computer created a simulation where unknown alien vessels were approaching with apparent hostile intent. This scenario has a 94% psychological breakdown rate among galactic species, Dr. Eventer explained. "The fear of unknown threats is one of the most primal terrors in the galaxy." The humans took their positions. Jake was in command, Danny handled security, and the others prepared for possible combat or evacuation. When the simulation started, the computer showed scary-looking alien ships on the main screen. They were big and dark, with weapons that looked very dangerous. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Morrison of the research vessel Stellar Horizon," Jake announced. "Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The computer played the role of hostile aliens, making threatening sounds and showing the ships moving closer, but instead of panicking, the humans got excited. "This is awesome," Danny said quietly. "It's like a real space battle." "Stay focused," Jake warned, but he was smiling. They handled the simulation perfectly. They tried communication, prepared defenses, and worked out escape plans. When the computer escalated the threat, they escalated their response. They were calm, professional, and effective. After the simulation, Dr. Zinakara approached Jake with a confused expression. "Commander, I must ask you something. Were you afraid during that simulation?" Jake thought about it. "A little nervous, maybe, but mostly excited. It was interesting." "Interesting? You found a life-threatening hostile encounter interesting?" "Well, it wasn't really life-threatening," Jake replied. "It was just a test." Dr. Zinakara made more notes. "But your body responded as if it were real? Your heart rate increased, your adrenaline levels rose, your muscles tensed for action." "Yeah, that's normal," Jake said. "That's how we get ready to handle things." "But you were not afraid?" Jake paused. "I guess I was afraid, but not the kind of afraid that makes you want to run away. More like the kind of afraid that makes you want to do your best." Dr. Zinakara's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "There are different types of fear?" "Sure, there's good fear and bad fear. Good fear keeps you alert and helps you perform better. Bad fear makes you freeze up or panic. And you can choose which type you feel? Jake had never thought about it that way. I guess so. We learn to use fear instead of letting it use us. The third test was the most challenging yet. Dr. Sarah Kim had to handle a complex medical emergency while the ship simulated multiple system failures. The lights went out, the gravity turned off, and the air recycling system made scary noises. But Sarah just turned on her emergency lights and kept working. She was floating in zero gravity, trying to save a holographic patient who was having a heart attack, while alarms blared and the computer announced that the ship was falling apart. "Patient needs immediate surgery," Sarah called out. "But I can't do it in zero gravity." "Working on it," Alex replied from the engine room. "Give me 2 minutes." Sarah held the patient stable while Alex fixed the gravity generator. When gravity returned, she immediately began the surgery simulation. "This is actually good practice," Sarah said while she worked. "You never know when you might have to do surgery during an emergency." The alien observers were speechless. What they considered impossible conditions for medical work, Sarah was treating as a learning opportunity. When all the tests were complete, Dr. Eventer called a meeting with all the human crew members. "We have discovered something remarkable," she announced. "Your species appears to have evolved a unique relationship with danger and stress. Instead of being paralyzed by fear, you are energized by it. Is that weird?" asked Lisa. "It is unprecedented," Dr. Eventer replied. "We believe this ability makes humans uniquely suited for roles that other species cannot perform." Jake looked around at his crew. They had just spent a week being tested and observed, and they were all excited about what came next. "So what happens now?" he asked. Dr. Eventer's crystal body glowed with anticipation. "Now we find out just how much danger humans cause." Dr. Eventer's research team spent the next week analyzing the test results. Jake Morrison found himself called to meeting after meeting, answering questions about human psychology, Earth's history, and how humans dealt with stress. "Tell me about your planet," Dr. Eventer said during one of their sessions. "What was it like growing up there?" Jake thought about his childhood in Colorado. "Well, we had forest fires every summer. Sometimes we had to evacuate our house, and there were blizzards in winter that could trap you for days. Plus earthquakes, tornadoes in some places, hurricanes on the coasts." Dr. Eventer's crystal body flickered with confusion. "And people chose to live there?" "It's our home," Jake replied. "You learn to deal with the dangerous stuff. But how do children survive such conditions?" Jake smiled. "We teach them young. Fire drills in school, earthquake drills, tornado drills. My dad taught me how to handle emergencies when I was 7 years old." "You train children to face disasters?" "Of course. How else would they learn?" Dr. Eventer was quiet for a long moment. "Commander, most galactic species remove their children from any hint of danger. The idea of deliberately exposing them to simulated emergencies would be considered child abuse." Jake felt uncomfortable. "But if you don't teach them when they're young, how do they learn to cope with problems when they're older?" "They don't," Dr. Eventer said simply. "Most species organize their entire civilization around avoiding danger and stress." That afternoon, Jake shared this conversation with his crew in the dining hall. "That explains a lot," said Sarah. "Dr. Villana told me that hydrants live in completely controlled environments. They've eliminated all natural disasters, dangerous animals, and even weather variations." "Same with the Zephyrians," added Lisa. "Dr. Kellano said they haven't had a war in over 1,000 years, and they've never experienced natural disasters, because they chose planets without geological activity." Pete shook his head. "That sounds boring." "What do they do for excitement?" "They create art," Lisa replied. "And they study things." "But nothing dangerous." "What about sports?" asked Danny. "Do they have any competitive activities?" "Dr. Kellanoth was horrified when I told him about football," Sarah said. "He couldn't believe humans voluntarily run into each other for fun," Alex laughed. "Wait until he hears about boxing or skydiving or rock climbing." I mentioned mountain Climbing to Dr. Villana, Lisa said. She asked me why humans choose to go to places where they might die. Because it's fun, said Pete, and because it's there. Jake was starting to understand the bigger picture. So we're from a dangerous planet, and instead of avoiding danger, we learn to enjoy it. Looks like it, said Sarah. I've been reading about human psychology. Apparently, we're one of the few species that seeks out challenges for entertainment. What do you mean? Asked Danny. Sarah pulled out her tablet. Extreme sports, horror movies, roller coasters, haunted houses. We pay money to be scared. That's true, said Alex. I love horror movies. The scarier the better. And I go rock climbing every chance I get, added Lisa. The more dangerous the route, the more fun it is? Jake thought about his own hobbies. I used to race motorcycles. The faster and more dangerous, the better, Pete grinned. I do free diving, holding my breath underwater for as long as possible. They all looked at each other and realized something important. We're adrenaline junkies, said Danny. All of us. Maybe all humans are, said Sarah. Maybe that's what makes us different. Dr. Eventer appeared at their table. May I join you? I have some results from our analysis. Of course, said Jake. Dr. Eventer sat down, her crystal body glowing with excitement. We have made a remarkable discovery. Your species appears to have evolved a unique neurochemical response to stress. What does that mean? Asked Pete. When most species encounter danger, their bodies release chemicals that cause fear and paralysis. But human bodies release different chemicals that cause excitement and improved performance. Sarah leaned forward. So we're literally wired differently? Exactly. Your stress hormones actually make you smarter, faster, and more capable. For other species, stress hormones make them weak and confused. That's why we do better under pressure, said Jake. Double quotes, yes, and it explains why you seek out dangerous activities for pleasure. Your bodies reward you for facing challenges. Dr. Eventer activated a holographic display. Look at this data. During the hull breach simulation, your heart rates increased by 40%, but your cognitive function improved by 25%. Your reaction times got faster, your decision-making got better, and your coordination improved. Cool, said Alex. So stress makes us superhuman? In a sense, yes. But here's the most interesting part. Dr. Eventer changed the display. We compared your results to similar tests done on other species. The stress levels that improved your performance would have killed most other species. The humans were quiet for a moment. Are you saying we're dangerous? Asked Lisa. No, Dr. Eventer replied. We're saying you're incredibly valuable. There are situations in the galaxy that no other species can handle, but you can. Jake felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. What kind of situations? Rescue operations in hostile environments, emergency repairs during combat, medical procedures during disasters, first contact with unknown species, deep space exploration. Any situation where quick thinking and calm action under extreme stress are required. So we're like ... specialists? Said Danny. The best specialists in the galaxy, Dr. Eventer confirmed, and we need your help. Over the next few days, Doctor? Eventer explained the galaxy's problems. There were many situations where other species couldn't help because the stress was too great. Ships trapped in asteroid fields that no one could rescue. Planets suffering from natural disasters that no one could reach. Dangerous research that no one could conduct. The Galactic Consortium has a list of over 200 impossible missions, Dr. Eventer explained. Things that need to be done, but no species can handle the psychological stress. Until now, said Jake. Until now, Dr. Eventer agreed, but there was more to learn. Dr. Eventer's team had been studying human culture and history through the ship's databases. We discovered something else interesting, Dr. Eventer said during another meeting. Your species has a concept that doesn't exist in any other galactic culture. What's that? Asked Sarah. Heroes. The humans looked confused. Heroes are people who voluntarily put themselves in danger to help others, Dr. Eventer explained. This concept is completely foreign to other species. We avoid danger. We don't seek it out to help others. But that's just being human, said Lisa. Of course you help people in trouble. Not of course, Dr. Eventer replied. Most species will help others, but only if it's safe. Humans will help others even if it's dangerous, even if it might kill them. Jake thought about all the human heroes he'd learned about in school. Firefighters, police officers, soldiers, doctors, rescue workers. People who chose dangerous jobs because they wanted to help others. So other species don't have firefighters? He asked. They have automated systems. No living being would voluntarily enter a burning building to save others. The stress would kill them before the fire could. Pete shook his head. That's crazy. What about police, soldiers, emergency medical workers? They exist, but they work very differently. Everything is done remotely or with heavy automation. Direct intervention in dangerous situations is avoided at all costs. Danny looked thoughtful. So when something really bad happens, no one can help? Exactly, which is why we need humans. Dr. Eventer showed them more data. Human history was full of examples that amazed the galactic researchers. People running into burning buildings, soldiers charging into battle, doctors working in war zones, rescue workers climbing mountains in storms. This behavior is unique in the galaxy, Dr. Eventer said. You are the only species that voluntarily seeks out danger to help others. It's not about seeking danger, Jake said. It's about doing what needs to be done. But that's exactly what makes you special. Other species think about what might go wrong. Humans think about what needs to be accomplished. Sarah was studying the medical data on her tablet. I'm seeing something interesting here. Our stress response isn't just different, it's adaptive. What do you mean? Asked Lisa. The longer we're exposed to stress, the better we get at handling it. Most species get worse over time. We get stronger. Dr. Eventer nodded excitedly. Yes. We call it stress conditioning. Humans are the only species that can be trained to handle increasingly dangerous situations without psychological breakdown. Like exercise, said Alex. The more you work out, the stronger you get. Exactly. But for psychological stress instead of physical stress, Jake was beginning to understand the full implications. So you're saying that humans can learn to handle any level of danger, within reasonable limits, yes? And more importantly, you can teach other humans to do the same. Training programs, said Sarah. We could develop training programs for different types of emergencies. We could create specialized teams, added Danny. Different groups trained for different types of dangerous missions. Dr. Eventer's crystal body was glowing brighter than they'd ever seen. This is exactly what the galaxy needs. Human-led emergency response teams, human-trained rescue specialists, human advisors for dangerous missions. But there's one more thing, Dr. Eve. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a ship he never thought he would command. The emergency response vessel Terra was the first ship in galactic history designed specifically for dangerous missions. It was fast, tough, and equipped with the best technology the Galactic Consortium could provide. But the most important part of the ship was its crew. 24 humans from Earth, all trained in emergency response, and 36 aliens from 12 different species, all volunteers who wanted to learn how to be brave. Commander Morrison, called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from the navigation station. We're receiving a distress call from the Rigel system. What's the situation? Jake asked. A passenger ship with 800 beings on board is trapped in an asteroid. Field. The field is shifting, and normal rescue ships can't get close enough without being destroyed. Jake looked around the bridge. 6 months ago, a call like this would have been labeled impossible, and the ship would have been abandoned. Now it was just another Tuesday. How many rescue ships have been sent? Jake asked. 3 attempted rescue, Amy replied. All had to retreat due to crew stress overload. 1 ship lost half its crew to panic attacks, Jake nodded. Time to destination? 4 hours at maximum speed. Set course for Rigel. Send a message to the passenger ship that help is coming. As the Terra jumped to hyperspace, Jake walked through the ship to check on his crew. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Kim was training Dr. Valana, the Hydran, in emergency surgery techniques. The key is to stay calm, Sarah was saying. Your hands might shake, but that's normal. Use the shaking to guide the scalpel instead of fighting it. Dr. Valana's gills were fluttering nervously, but she was practicing the procedure. It still feels wrong to cut into someone when I'm afraid. Fear means you care about the patient, Sarah replied. That's good. Use that caring to make you more careful, not more hesitant. In the engineering section, Pete Collins was working with Zixtar, a young Vortani who had volunteered for the emergency response program. Remember, Pete was saying, when everything is going wrong, that's when engineering matters most. Don't. Think about what might happen. Think about what needs to be fixed. Zixtar's crystal body was glowing with nervous energy. But what if I make a mistake and people die? Then you'll learn from the mistake and save more people next time. Pete replied, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Jake found Dr. Kalanoth in the security section with Danny Walsh. The Zephyrian had come further than anyone expected. He was now trained in emergency evacuation procedures and had successfully completed 3 minor rescue missions. Commander, Dr. Kalanoth said when he saw Jake, I wanted to thank you again for including me in this program. You earned your place here, Jake replied. How are you feeling about today's mission? Dr. Kalanoth's skin showed the familiar patterns of nervousness, but there was something else too, determination. I am afraid. But I have learned that being afraid does not mean being unable, Danny grinned. That's the spirit. Fear is just information. It tells you to be careful, but it doesn't tell you to stop. Jake continued his tour and found Lisa Parker in the geology lab with Dr. Fender, a crystalline researcher who specialized in asteroid formation. The key to working in an asteroid field, Lisa was explaining, is to think of the asteroids as partners, not enemies. They follow predictable patterns. If you understand the patterns, you can use them to help you. Dr. Fender was studying holographic models of the asteroid field they were approaching. But the field is actively shifting. The patterns are changing. That's what makes it interesting, Lisa replied with a smile. Changing patterns mean new opportunities. We just have to be flexible. When Jake reached the Terra's observation deck, he found Dr. Eventer waiting for him. The Vortani researcher had become the official liaison between the Emergency Response Division and the Galactic Consortium. Commander, she said, I have news from the Consortium. This will be your 15th successful rescue mission. The Council is officially recognizing the Emergency Response Division as an essential galactic service. That's good news, Jake said. What does that mean practically? More ships, more crew, more resources. And more importantly, official recognition that humans are the galaxy's specialists in impossible situations. Jake looked out at the stars racing past. It's funny. 6 months ago, we thought we were just doing normal ship drills. Now, we're the galaxy's emergency service. You were always the galaxy's emergency service, Dr. Eventer corrected. You just didn't know it yet. The Terra dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Rigel system. On the main screen, they could see the passenger ship trapped in the shifting asteroid field. The field was dense and chaotic, with rocks the size of buildings spinning and colliding in unpredictable patterns. That looks impossible, said Amy Foster. Perfect, said Jake. Amy, plot us a course through the field. Use the standard impossible navigation protocol. Aye, Commander. The impossible navigation protocol was something humans had developed for the Emergency Response Division. Instead of trying to predict where every asteroid would be, they planned to react to changes as they happened. It required split-second decision-making and constant course corrections, but it worked. Sarah, prep the medical bay for casualties. We don't know what condition the passengers are in. Already done, Commander. Pete, I want engines ready for emergency speed and emergency stop. We might need to move fast or stop fast with no warning. Engines. Ready, Commander. Danny, prepare boarding teams. We might need to evacuate people quickly. Team's ready, Commander. As the Terra entered the asteroid field, Jake felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. His heart rate increased, his mind became sharper, and time seemed to slow down. Around him, he could see his human crew members experiencing the same thing, but he also noticed something new. The alien crew members were nervous, but they weren't panicking. Dr. Kelenoff was working at his station with steady hands. Dr. Valana was checking medical supplies with focused concentration. Zixtar was monitoring the engines with careful attention. The 6 months of training had worked. The aliens were still afraid, but they had learned to work with their fear instead of being paralyzed by it. Asteroid coming in fast from portside, called out Amy. I see it, Jake replied, adjusting course smoothly. Another one from starboard, added Lisa, who was tracking the field patterns. Got it. For 20 minutes, the Terra danced through the asteroid field. Jake made dozens of course corrections, sometimes with only seconds to spare. The ship twisted and turned, dove and climbed, always moving toward the trapped passenger vessel. Finally, they reached the passenger ship. It was a large cruise liner that had been designed for comfort, not emergency situations. The ship was wedged between 2 large asteroids with smaller rocks constantly bouncing off its hull. Life signs? Jake asked. All 800 passengers and crew are alive, Sarah reported. But I'm reading high stress levels across the ship. Many are in shock. Can we dock with them? Negative, said Pete. The asteroid positions make docking impossible. We'll need to evacuate by shuttle, Jake nodded. How many trips? With our largest shuttles, we can take 200 people per trip. 4 trips total. That means staying in the asteroid field for over an hour, Amy warned. The field is getting more unstable. Jake looked around the bridge. Every member of his crew, human and alien alike, was ready to do what needed to be done. Begin evacuation operations, he ordered. The evacuation took exactly 1 hour and 12 minutes. 4 shuttle trips through the shifting asteroid field, with Jake personally piloting the Terra to provide cover for each shuttle run. Every time a shuttle launched, he had to move the ship to block incoming asteroids. Every time a shuttle returned, he had to clear a landing path. It was the most difficult flying he had ever done. But it was also the most satisfying when the last shuttle docked with the Terra, carrying the final group of evacuees. Jake felt the familiar sense of accomplishment that came with a successful rescue. All passengers and crew evacuated safely, Sarah reported. No casualties, though many will need counseling for stress trauma. Course laid in for the nearest starbase, Amy announced. Take us home, Jake ordered as the Terra left the asteroid. Field behind, Jake realized that something important had happened. Not just the rescue, though, that was significant. Something bigger. He looked around the bridge at his mixed crew of humans and aliens, all working together with confidence and skill. 6 months ago, most of these aliens couldn't handle a simple drill. Now they had just completed one of the most dangerous rescue operations in galactic history. Dr. Eventer approached him with a report tablet. Commander, I've been monitoring stress levels throughout the operation. How did we do? The human crew performed exactly as expected. Stress, actually. Improved your performance, but the alien crew members... She paused, her crystal body glowing with excitement. What about them? They showed stress levels that would normally require medical intervention, but they kept working. They pushed through the fear and completed their duties. Jake smiled. They learned more than that. They discovered they were capable of things they never thought possible. Jake looked out at the stars and thought about the future. The Emergency Response Division was growing. More ships were being built. More humans were volunteer